All right, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. We're going to be talking about how to build a margin-rich business with push-button failover. So let's take a look at the agenda. First, we're going to talk a bit about some trends in data protection in 2015. Then we're going to present some InfraScale product updates to all of you. And then we're going to discuss some partner resources that we have available for you. And then we'll have a Q&A where you can ask anything. We're going to be having the CEO and founder of InfraScale join us for that Q&A. So you really can ask any questions, whether it be sales related, whether it be technical. Please go ahead and ask anything during that Q&A. Now, there is a question tool in GoToWebinar, and you can use that tool to ask questions throughout the presentation. So you don't necessarily have to wait to the very end during the Q&A portion. We are going to be sending you a copy of this presentation as well. You'll be receiving the slides and a replay of this video as we are recording. And we're going to send that to the email address that you provided when you registered. And presenting today is the VP of Marketing, Dean Nichols. And I'm the Marketing Manager here at InfraScale. And my name is Carla Federico. So first, let's go ahead and look at some trends in data protection in 2015. So the first trend that we're going to look at, we're calling living with a false sense of security. And this is really because experiencing downtime can really hurt a business. But more business professionals are living with a false sense of security, thinking that they have a backup system in place and really thinking that they're covered. But what we found is that there's a big mismatch between the importance of data protection and disaster recovery and then the level of preparation that your customers are putting in place. So let's take a look at some of these stats to get an idea. Gartner research has found that 70% of businesses aren't confident with the statement, our backup and disaster recovery operations are well managed and planned. And I'm not going to read through all these, but just let's look at one or two more stats. 98% of businesses cannot survive more than a day of downtime. And if you're a smaller company, then being down for 24 hours is definitely going to kill your business. One more stat that we can take a look at, IDC has found that the average cost of downtime is $20,000 per hour. So simply ask yourself, is that something that you're willing to risk for your customers, for their business? And hopefully you joined this webinar, the answer is no, and InfraScale is really going to show you, if you're not a partner yet, how it's going to be very easy for you to put a disaster recovery and failover system in place for your customers. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. Now, the second trend that we're going to look at, we surveyed 350 companies, and the size of these companies was 100 to 5,000 employees. And what was interesting that we found is most businesses said that they couldn't fail over to a second location. In fact, only 10% of the companies surveyed said that they could fail over within 15 minutes. So why aren't businesses and companies investing in failover? Well, the number one reason we found that was holding them back is the perceived cost of disaster recovery solutions. And after that, we found that reliability, complexity, and security were all also limiting adoption. But really, the overwhelming reason, like you see in the graph on the right here, is cost. So we're going to come back to that misperception a little bit later. But if you do want a copy of this report that we're referencing, there's a handout section in GoToMeeting, and you can go ahead and grab a copy of this report from the handouts in PDF version. So please go ahead and do so that you can have a copy of that report.
Great. Thanks, Carla. So I'm going to talk a little bit about DRaaS, or Disaster Recovery as a Service. This is, I think, a little bit of uncharted territory for a lot of partners out there, and we think it's a huge revenue opportunity for most of you. And I want to just talk a little bit about the history of DRaaS and the evolution of DRaaS. We think DRaaS is obviously the next step in data protection, and it's more than just a trend. If you think about this natural progression and evolution of backup, it looks a little bit like this, right? We first start off with tape, and tape was the primary way that we used and were protecting data, but it was unreliable and still is, and somewhat susceptible to corruption because it's physical media. Then kind of along came disk, which became popular. Obviously, it still is. And it was a better solution for a lot of folks. It was a little bit more reliable, but it was also more expensive. If you needed more space, you just needed to buy another appliance. Then came a cloud backup, which can be cheaper, easy, and reliable, but on the other hand, it can be really slow if you're dealing with large data sets from both a backup and a recovery standpoint. Then, most recently, a hybrid cloud has been developed by many vendors, and it combines really the benefits of disk in that it's cheaper, but it also exploits the benefits of the cloud for long-term storage and archiving. And because you have a local appliance, it can also be a little bit faster in the cloud as well. So you end up with something that's really reliable, affordable, and fast. But kind of as we head and move towards 2016, the best data protection paradigm out there that we think that you can pursue is around push-button failover, on-demand failover. And so not only do you have backup, but you also have an appliance that you have failover that's on the appliance or in the cloud and allows you to recover critical business applications in less than 15 minutes. So when you think about the different methods of disaster recovery, we say that they're falling short. And what we mean by that is that often it's fair to consider that you'll want to kind of evaluate based on the certain values, RTO, RPO, security, and cost. And even though most of you are familiar with these terms, just for the few that might not be, let me clarify some of these definitions. RTO is the recovery time objective, and it's related to downtime. How long does it take you to recover from an outage? RPO is recovery point objective, and that's the amount of data that's at risk, and often reflects the last time you performed a kind of a backup. What you'll notice when you look at this slide is that the trend as you move across, archive doesn't have a great RTO, RPO, or security, but it's not that expensive either. As you move across, you'll see the comparison. When you get to failover, and we're talking kind of high availability type failover, it's got a great RTO and a great RPO, but it's also the most expensive. Of course, what you really want is what we see on the bottom, right? Where all the circles are filled out. By the way, circles are kind of levels of awesomeness from 1 to 5. What you really want is something that has a fantastic RTO, a great RPO, and all at a low price that you can afford and your customers can afford. And on top of that, you want to be able to fail over in minutes using more of the cloud and less hardware with security baked right in. So let's go to the next slide. When you guys talk to your partners about disaster recovery, there's all kinds of ways that people kind of define disaster recovery, right? And here are a few examples of many of the vendors and methods that people use for disaster recovery. I'm not going to kind of go through every kind of row, but what's interesting was when you look at and consider failover. It's important to look at the pattern that we kind of just proved that we wanted on the previous slide, right? We want a great RTO, we want a great RPO, and security built in, all at a low price. But often, kind of your partners can't afford what's out there, and they don't see the combination anywhere in this set of combinations, this set of options that you have availability. So clearly current DR methods are falling short, and none of the current methods out there for disaster recovery really fit what we're looking for. So what we're going to talk about in this presentation is how InfraScale can deliver your clients a solution that doesn't fall short, and we'll see in just a few minutes how that works.
All right, so what we just saw is that some vendors can achieve the RTO and RPO that we want, but they just simply don't achieve the cost that we want. Well, why is that? So here on the left, what you see is how most DR solutions are architected. So you have a production site that replicates to the failover site, just like you see here. And because of the bandwidth, the people, and the software involved, it can cost up to 3 times as much to set up a proper DR solution. On top of the expense to implement, it's really complex to test and to use, and it's vulnerable to hackers since security isn't built in. Well, what InfraScale provides to you is the ability to offer failover, but at the price point of backup. And now we're going to get into a couple of the product updates that we have with InfraScale. So first, we're going to look at a better way to do it, so the new way of failover. So here are some end users that are working, and unknown to them is that they're about to experience an unexpected disaster. So there you go. You see the red X's that symbolize when everything goes down, and what are they to do? So you're going to be the one that has to deal with this. It could literally happen at any time, even in the middle of the night. So as any admin can do, simply log in from any laptop, tablet, or any browser, and you can recover the entire environment, virtualize any of the servers that are down, boot and run either on the appliance or in the cloud, and then everyone keeps working. And what we found is that 95% of businesses experience outages for reasons unrelated to natural disasters. It could be operational issues, it could be human error. Really, disasters come in all shapes and sizes. So this covers both micro and macro disasters. Also, on average, it takes 18.5 hours for a business to recover from a disaster, and that's simply unacceptable.
So what Carla just walked through is how our Cloud Failover Appliance works. And now I want to talk a little bit about what Cloud Failover Appliance, what it is, how it works, and why should you care. First of all, the appliance itself is a thin cloud edge device. It allows you to do what we call push-button failover functionality. It can be the appliance itself can either be a virtual or actually a physical appliance, and includes all the backup and cloud storage that you're going to need. Now, what does it do? Well, it allows you, for your clients, to recover quickly, easily, and affordably by booting critical applications and servers from the cloud or the appliance. And that's actually a big deal. There are a number of solutions on the market today, failover solutions, that allow you to boot VMs from the appliance, and there are some that allow you to boot from the cloud, but there's very few that allow you to boot from both places, or that allow you to do it whether you're talking about VMware VMs, or you're talking about Hyper-V, or even booting directly with physical environments. So why should you care? Well, what the Cloud Failover Appliance allows you to do is to recover applications for your clients in less than 15 minutes. It solves complex scenarios with a push of a button. What I mean by complex scenarios is what Carla was alluding to. In the case of a micro disaster, somewhere where there's some human error and a server crashes, what you want to be able to do typically is boot directly from the appliance and not activate a recovery from the cloud, because it's just simply going to take longer. But in the case of a site-wide failure, that's a perfect example where you do want to recover from the cloud. So we enable you to do both. And because of that, we also reduce the amount of hardware, the bandwidth and software costs associated with it. And you'll see that as we start talking a little bit more about pricing. It also allows you to, because it comes in a variety of sizes, it can protect from 4 terabytes to well over 100 terabytes of data with military-grade security baked in.
So like Dean just mentioned, the CFA can protect 4 terabytes up to hundreds of terabytes. And really, you can unlock the unlimited capacity of the cloud in doing this with Cloud Spillover. So what Cloud Spillover does is understand that not all data requires expensive local capacity. It spills over to the cloud, eliminating the need to grow the local appliance as you need more capacity. So it's just push-button scalability. And there's no need to provision with additional purchases. There's no need to buy a second appliance for the replicated data store. Really, you can set the policies regarding the age and the value of the data that's spilling over to the cloud. And really, the genius with all of this is that it's easy enough for a 4th grader to use because it's push-button failover from anywhere for any type of environment. So like Dean already mentioned, you can boot on the appliance or in the cloud, and there's support for VMware, Hyper-V, Windows, and Linux. And you can actually recover any of your customers in 15 minutes or less, and we give that a guarantee. So you'll have a shorter recovery time objective because of that.
When we actually first thought of developing this hybrid solution, what happened was we had a number of customers that came to us and asked, is there any way that we can have like essentially one box, one appliance that can do it all? What we started to call affectionately as a magic backup box. And when we started talking with some of our partners, what they said they're looking for is a solution that really combines the best of 4 different worlds. Obviously, we start with the WAN accelerators. And all that is allowing us to pipe data to the cloud a whole lot faster and helps us deal with and accommodate much larger data sets. We also borrowed from a number of solutions out there like Terra and others who had developed cloud storage gateways that allow us to spill over data to the cloud. So essentially you have an infinite cloud, which allows you to, for example, have a 4 terabyte appliance, but literally protect tens and hundreds of terabytes of data in the cloud. Our lineage is in the upper right-hand corner. So we started as a cloud company and still are. And so obviously we want to leverage the best of that functionality in terms of being easy to deploy and manage and offering that infinite capacity. And then obviously having all the built-in functionality of what we call a purpose-built backup appliance, right? And the good ones will have all the software that you need all baked into the actual appliance. And so with our Cloud Failover appliance, we've managed to bake all of this into a single solution. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually walk you through how CFA works. So first of all, we're going to show you our dashboard. This is what the dashboard looks like if you as a partner log in. So this allows you to manage all of your customers from one single point. It doesn't require any VPN at all, so you can access this 24/7. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at some of the appliances that we're managing for some of our customers. And here you can see which ones are standalone appliances, and you'll also be able to see which ones are replicating to the cloud. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to find one that we're going to actually fail over. So let's say there's a flood at Acme. We're going to go ahead and let's first find one that's actually replicating. Here we go. And we're going to go ahead and select the appliance here. And then what we're going to do, this is going to allow us to essentially reboot some of the VMs and virtualize the VMs on the fly. So in this case, we're going to find the active jobs. We'll leverage Cloud Boot here, which is the ability to virtualize those VMs in the cloud. It works just identically if you're talking about booting VMs from the appliance. We go through a simple 3 or 4-step wizard. We're going to find the latest backup job that we want to recover from. We're going to set some definitions here around who can access the applications during this failover during the failover period. So we'll allow traffic from anyone to access this. We'll give ourselves a let's fill in this email address so I get notified when the VMs are successfully booted. This process can take anywhere from a few minutes to a little longer depending on how much data we're talking about. So now we're going to go ahead and see if the job is actually successfully booted. So we'll just give this a second. We'll log in here to remote desktop. And we're going to go here and verify that the actual server is now running, the Exchange server is running. So we'll log in here as an admin. And then once this is done, we're going to essentially just check the connectivity of that application. We'll just ping, I think we'll just ping Google here. And see, and there we go. There's our server manager, which you guys are probably all very familiar with. Okay, now we'll go ahead and ping Google, see, make sure it's active and we have connectivity. Ping Google, okay. There you go. So we're getting a pulse. We're back online. So that's how simple it is to boot. In this case, we booted an Exchange server with just a few clicks. And in this case, it can happen very, very quickly. And when you're booting from the appliance, it'll happen probably just that much quicker than it would from the cloud. So let me provide just a real quick recap of what we're offering with our Cloud Failover solution. We had talked about how really it's our mission to provide on-demand failover for every business, regardless of size, with an approachable and affordable solution. And so this is what we're bringing to market with the Cloud Failover appliance. It's simple. You can recover in less than 15 minutes with just a few clicks. It allows you to protect everything. So we talked about it allows you to protect virtual servers, physical servers, even desktops and laptops. It's secure. We haven't spent a lot of time talking about security, but that's baked into the solution as well. We offer double-blind encryption. We allow you The data itself is encrypted in transit at rest. We also give you the opportunity to hold the encryption key if that's what you want to do on behalf of some of your customers. And we also have two-factor authentication baked in as well. And it's affordable. It requires no additional hardware, software, or bandwidth. And so it allows you to provide this solution at a much more affordable price than some of the big boy competition out there that offer similar kind of high availability solutions.
Great. So now we're going to share some of the partner resources that we have available to you. And this is the last section that we have here, and then we're going to jump into the Q&A. So do be sure to ask some questions using that question tool in the GoToMeeting software. First, I'd like to launch a quick poll and hear from the audience. So you should be seeing on your screen here a poll come up. Simply asking, when it comes to backup and disaster recovery, which of these is you? So you have a couple of options here. Either you're not happy with your current backup offerings, you're happy with backup but interested in learning more about InfraScale solutions and Failover DR, or you're currently comparing vendors and looking at a new backup and disaster recovery vendor, or you're happy with your offerings and simply learning here today in this webinar. So far, it's actually very split pretty evenly between the last three options. So happy with backup but interested in InfraScale Failover DR, comparing different vendors, and also happy with my offerings, just learning. It's really split 30% for each of those. So we only have 48% of you who voted. I'll leave this up for one more minute here. So let's get a few more of you to participate in this poll. We have 52% of you who voted so far. I'd love to have a little bit more participation from those of you who haven't answered yet. So I'll leave it up here for just another few seconds. Now it looks like we've got 62% of you who voted. Great. Thanks for your participation in that. So I'll go ahead and close this poll so we can dive back into this presentation. So we'll talk a little bit about some partner resources that we have available to you. So first is a co-marketing opportunity with InfraScale that we call Event in a Box. And this is really through brand partnership with InfraScale. It's co-branding and co-presenting. And Event in a Box, we're calling it because it's really simple for you, where we will host an in-person local event where you can invite your customer base and yet take advantage of InfraScale marketing materials, and we'll also provide budget for this event in part. So we'll really be sharing this event, co-presenting this event, and in a box means that we take care of all of the logistics for you. What you see on your screen on the right is just a couple of examples of some of the previous events that we have done. So we did happy hour and golf. We also did a breakfast event. And you can see that you can take advantage of our marketing materials that will create these email invitations for you, and we'll work out all those logistics. So it will be your customer base, and we'll take care of everything on our end. Now, another one of these brand partnership opportunities that you have is a Lunch and Learn webinar. So just like this webinar that we are participating in today, it's a virtual event. Again, we'll take care of all the logistics, and the pizza will be delivered on site with the presentation during the webinar. And it will be co-branding, co-presenting during a virtual webinar. Your customers don't even have to leave their office, and they'll be delivered pizza right to their door. So very convenient, very easy to do. And that's another one of the co-marketing opportunities with InfraScale.
Yeah, the one thing I want to point out as we start talking about all these partners, resources available to you, and we haven't said it directly, but it's really important. A good chunk of the recent partners that have come to us as a result of their previous vendors going direct or marketing directly to their customers. That's one thing that we really stand behind our partners, and we don't do that. We obviously have a lead registration form, and when you register a lead with us, or even when it comes to these events, that relationship that you have with your customers is sacrosanct. And so that's one thing I just want to point out, because it's been a real source of pain for a lot of partners out there whose vendors have kind of gone around their backs. So in addition to the events in a box, the other thing that we provide our partners is a host of solutions out there, a host of resources out there. It includes obviously product information and training information, marketing and sales collateral. It's your one-stop shop for all of your technical, sales, and marketing information that you need. In addition to that, we pair you with a dedicated account manager that's there at your beck and call to answer any questions, to help run demos, to help through the sales cycle in any way you need them to. That can be a light touch, that can be a heavy touch. That's really dependent on you and your needs. So that actually ends and concludes our webinar. And with that, I think we can jump right into the Q&A.
Yeah, I think we will dive into the Q&A here. Just to be sure that everyone does know, we'd love to schedule one of those in-person or virtual events with you. So we'd love to help you promote failover and disaster recovery to your customer base. So we'd love to talk to you. If you're interested in more information, we have the phone number and email address here on the screen now, and great image of our CFA, the Cloud Failover Appliance. So definitely please reach out to us. We'd love to schedule one of those events with you.
Right, so let's get right into the Q&A. We're being joined by Aaron Jordan, who's one of our sales engineers, also a guy that would be available to you to help with your demos of our solutions. So the first question we have is from Phil, who asks about our data centers and our global data center coverage. Aaron, can you speak to that?
Sure. So I used to say 11 data centers worldwide. We just got 2 more. So we've got 13 data centers worldwide. We're actually still expanding, so there'll be a few more soon. But about half of them are in the States, and then outside of the States, we've got one in Canada, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany's coming soon, Brazil, one in Australia. Yeah, we got like I said, a total of 13 worldwide right now, and you can fill over to any one of them.
Great. By the way, we got a ton of questions, but please feel free to add your questions, and we'll get to as many as we can before the hour ends. The next question, Aaron, is from Susan, who's asking about cloud spillover and asks how does that actually work with the appliance?
Sure. So the good news is, I mean, regardless of the size of the appliance you start with, you can always spill over whatever you want in the cloud. And just because you start with a smaller appliance doesn't mean that you necessarily have to, have a limited amount of storage, right? So I can back up a bunch of 2012 file servers that fit on the appliance or just big enough for the appliance, and then spill that over and then make multiple replications of it locally and just keep spilling it over. So I've got like recent data on the appliance, but I've got my history in the cloud. And of course, you can go vice versa as well. We don't tether our cloud, so you can really be as flexible as you need with our cloud services.
Well, that actually ties into the next question from George, who asks, "What do we have to store our client's data in your cloud?"
No, actually. So Infrascale offers you to have, a cloud wherever you want it, right? So there's our cloud, there's your cloud, there's Azure, there's AWS. So if you have your own data center, your own hardware, and you want to deploy that, we're more than happy to help you with that. In fact, as part of the service, when you sign up, we'll help you with that if you'd like. But the point is, we're very flexible as to where you put your cloud.
Great. Amy is asking, as far as the different operating systems that we support from a server perspective, and she asks whether we support Linux or Unix environments.
Right. So our appliance can support hundreds of types of operating systems, versions, etc. So every version of Linux, every version of Windows, Unix, Open Server, or Open Server, I'm trying to think, HPOX, AIX, Novell NetWare, Mac OS X, Solaris. We also have a bare metal bootable for Windows, physical Windows that you can boot both locally and in the cloud. So that's a little spiff, and then Linux is right around the corner. You can do bare metal Linux today, and then booting in the cloud is right around the corner.
Great.
John asks, Datto doesn't let me back up laptops, particularly roaming laptops. Can you do that?
Yeah, so we have an endpoint protection solution that jumps into the individual mobile agents, or clients. So you'd install an agent in those cases, and they can phone home just fine. But what ends up happening is we'll back up, laptops, iOS device, Android device, etc.
Peter says, I have a 100 terabyte opportunity. Can you help me win it?
Yeah, actually, I do it all the time. That's actually one of my roles as a sales engineer. You can gather one of our, your sales reps, get me on the phone with you. I can pretend that I work for you. I can pretend, I can tell you that I work for InfoScale. Either one's fine. I'll even help you spec it out too. So once we discuss it, we get on the phone afterwards. We can.
I'm going to ask a question around pricing, and he's asking, how much would it cost for one of the physical Windows Server with your smallest appliance?
I'm more of a nerd, and let me see if the marketing people know the cost, but it depends on the size of the appliance that will give, so whatever the size of your appliance will determine that cost, right? So let me just throw something out there. If it's a 2 terabyte protected CVA with some cloud, then that's going to be a pretty cheap cost. But if you want like one of our 5U or 9U 9500s, then of course that's going to be significantly more because you got a bigger server on-prem. But I'm going to hand that off to Dean. Maybe he can give you some costs.
Sure. Just for ballpark pricing, our pricing for our smallest appliance, which can protect 2 terabytes of data, starts right around $3,000. If you're then looking for the cloud failover appliance, it's actually a little bit less than that, starting at about $2,400, and then we offer failover services that go along with that to allow you to protect VMs and offer some additional cloud storage. Now, we talked earlier about the fact that our appliances range from a couple terabytes to hundreds of terabytes, and so hopefully that answers some of the questions. Actually, Jeff was asking, how much does a single appliance support locally?
Again, that depends on the size of the appliance. So we go everything from a 1U unit to a 9U unit, which means we can do anything from 1 terabyte protected all the way up to about 90 terabytes protected, easy. And that's if you have physical environments. If you have VM, you can jump that, or VMware only environments, you can jump that to about 176 terabytes protected. So really, that plus the cloud, unlimited, right? Because the cloud just grows and grows and grows. So there's really no limit.
And then Rodilio asks, is File Granular and Exchange Mailbox Restore supported?
Yeah, it's actually not only supported, it's part of the service. So if you want mailbox level recovery, you can have the ability to not only back up SQL and Exchange databases separately and get those segregated so that you can do wizarded restores. We also offer a mailbox level restore. So if I wanted to pop open, let's say, Dean's mailbox, drill through and find an attachment in the email from yesterday that he deleted, I can totally do that. That's, again, part of the service with the appliance.
Great question. Pam asks, if it's stored in the cloud, how redundant is it? In other words, if one of your servers goes down and it's also stored on another server in a different location, I get this question all the time. I tell them yes, but I really don't know for a fact.
Okay, so let's make it a fact. So with our service, when you replicate to our cloud, number one, we replicate to another machine in the same data center in case that cluster goes down. And on top of that, if you're in the States, it'll replicate to another data center in a different state or region so that you can ensure that if a meteorite happens to hit Texas, you still got Louisville and LA. Or if you replicate from LA to Texas, or et cetera, et cetera. So you don't have to worry about the Eastern Seaboard going down and not having your data. We'll still have it in another data center across the country somewhere.
And then Rodilio also asked, would the data protection cloud solution work if the company has a slow internet bandwidth? Does it have bandwidth management?
Yeah, so our appliance allows you to throttle based off of speed, so I can set the speed I want it to go to and during certain time frames. So the idea is, in fact, I actually have to use one in the office because we back up our backend with it, and I VPN from home most of the time. So I actually have to throttle the appliance down, otherwise I can't reach into the office because it will use as much as it can. So yes, definitely granular tools that allow you to ensure that you're being kind to those on the network while it does backup, so you don't have to halt the services simply because you're working.
Greg had a follow-up to that question. He was asking about are there like minimum bandwidth requirements?
So the good news is you don't need to worry about that because the appliance does local backup and then trickles up. So the initial upload will be rough if you choose not to use the seeding service that we provide. So if you want to seed, then you just have to worry about the change of blocks, and then at that point, even if you have a megabit per second, it's not going to affect you too much, right? I do recommend at least 5 megabits per second because it helps, but Do you need it? No, not at all. You can seed and just do change blocks and you're up and going even on the worst networks.
Joseph asks, is there a demo or an evaluation available? And yes, we definitely do have an evaluation that we would like to provide to everyone. If you'd like a free eval unit, please just use that GoToMeeting question tool. Type in anything along the lines of, yes, I'd love a free eval, and your name and your phone number. We'll go ahead and contact you this week to get you set up with that free eval immediately.
And the good news is you might get a chance to talk to me. I'm actually a sales leader for half the country and foreign. So, you know, I'll even help you with the POC so we can lock down, like, what are the requirements for you to say this is successful. And I'll sit on the phone and run you through it. And if it works, you can pick up the appliance. If not, you can ship it back to the appliance. Either way, I'm happy to make sure that it's going to fit for you.
And that is good news. You're in good hands with Aaron. He's been with the company for years, and he really knows his stuff.
Great. Jorge asks, does your appliances come in a virtual format?
Right. So if you have Hyper-V or VMware, we can deploy in a virtual format if you already have your existing hardware. Really cool feature as well is if you happen to have a data box, I've got step-by-step instructions to convert those data boxes that you may not be using any longer into infra-scale boxes using the virtual appliance and a free VMware. And of course, like I said, existing hardware, no problem. We can work with it.
Great. See lots of comments coming through. I'd like to speak with someone offline about using this system. Yes, I'd like a free eval. I've got lots of eval requests coming through. This is great. And then I see a question, what is your support like? Do you offer 24/7 support?
Yes. Actually, I used to lead the support team before I became a sales engineer, so I can assure you it's good. We actually have 24/7 stateside support. Half of our support is in Salt Lake City. The other half is in El Segundo, California, with the rest of us here. But either way, 24/7, we have email support, live chat support, ticketing support. We have a knowledge base, and best of all, we have a phone line that you can call. And that phone line has a 1-hour SLA, and even better, if you call at 2 a.m., you're not going to get a secretary that tells you that we'll get back to you at 6 a.m. We will have somebody on the phone that will answer and help you with your problem at 2 a.m.
Yeah, and I want to kind of keep reiterating a few things about infrastructure that do set us apart. First of all, our DNA has always will be as a cloud company. We're not necessarily interested in selling you more and more boxes, right? I think many of your customers are looking for a solution that's scalable. And we talked about cloud spillover, and that allows you to offer them a truly scalable solution because we're offering an unlimited cloud. The other part I really want to make sure resonates is the fact is we have always been a partner-led company, and so virtually almost all of our sales come directly through our partner channels, and so that's why that DNA obviously is important, increasingly apparently more important as more of our competitors are going direct. So are there any more questions, Carla?
Looks like we have just 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Jeff asks, is this HIPAA and GLBA compliant?
So the best way to answer that is our data centers are Tier 4 data centers. We have Sarbanes-Oxley certified, so you can get the SOC2 documentation if you want it. SAT 70, SSAE 16, we've covered. Safe Harbor if you're foreign. We've got all that covered. We also have, if you need FIPS compliant, so if you have military or top secret data, we have a data center specifically for that, so you can ensure that it's not going to get raided. And the people that run that, and the only people that touch that are FIPS compliant themselves. They've been certified by the FBI. Now, with regard to all the others, HIPAA, whatnot, remember HIPAA is all about the access to the chain of data. So if you utilize our double-blind encryption and the personalized encryption keys that they talked about earlier, then you will be HIPAA compliant, right? So that's the key to it. Make sure to leverage our security features, and then you will say confidently, I'm HIPAA compliant.
Great. Ming asks whether or not we support IBM AIX/Unix machines.
Yeah, with the appliance, that's just one of our items that we do by default.
And then the last question that I see so far is from Tammy. You mentioned push button reboot that we could manage from our client. How does that work?
It's actually pretty simple. There is a boot. Let's say we're going local first, right? Because they demonstrated the cloud boot. So let's say that VMware goes down because it's got bad RAM. You need to bring the machines back online, no problem. Load into your appliance. Once you've logged into your appliance, click on the boot tab. The boot tab, you can see a list of all the machines that are available for boot. Basically, if they're VMware physical Windows, they can be booted. Just right-click, go through the wizard similar to Dean's and stuff. You don't need to worry about the IP. It'll actually put it on a port that is VNC port, so that you can simply use a VNC viewer to get to it. Once you boot it up and you got to it, you can then provide a public IP if you want, or private IP, and then use routing to make sure it's going to work. But either way, yeah, definitely we got that covered. It's very simple. And even more importantly, if you need support in setting that up, or you're just interested in watching it happen, I do demonstrate it on my demos. And if you want to do it yourself, get a POC. I'll sit on the phone with you, make sure that we put our money where the mouth is and it works.
We had someone ask about hardware as a service, and so do we offer that for our partners and for their downstream clients? The answer is yes. We don't offer it for all of our appliance models. We offer it for 1200 series and the 1500 series. And just for those of you that aren't familiar with HAS, what we allow you to do then is, instead of paying for the appliance all up front, allows your customers to pay on a monthly installment basis. I think we may be done. I think that virtually is all the questions. If you guys have any residual questions that we didn't get to, please reach out to us at team@infoscale.com, and we will follow up. And with that, I think we're going to turn you loose.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Aaron, for being here to answer some of the Q&A. And we really look forward to speaking with you, and we look forward to continued and future partnership.